Om Shrutismritipuranam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Logashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Bhattarayanam Sutrabhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmatacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukaro Anthakaro Vai Rukarastanivartakaha Anthakara Nirodhitvad Gururitya Vidhiyate Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vaivasvataya Mrityave Brahma Vidya Acharyaya Nachiketase Namaha. We are in the Kaṭha Upaniṣad, second chapter, 11th sloka, 11th verse. We know that Kaṭha Upaniṣad is a dialogue between a young boy called Nachiketas and the Lord Death. In Sanskrit, we call him Yama Raj or Yamadharmaraj. So Lord Death is a traditional teacher. By implying all these verses, we know that Lord Death is a traditional teacher. That is why in our tradition, Lord Death comes to our house and take one of the soul, what we say, once the time is over, somebody will be departing from the body. It's a celebration for 16 days up to Shodashi. That means death is not at all an event to become sad. In our tradition, we have some customs, we have some rituals once a person is departed from this world. Because death is a reality with respect to the body. Here, this is only secondary for us. The primary concern of this text is receiving the proper knowledge about oneself from the direct words of Lord Death. This is the primary concern. It's not the concern how one will die, what are the customs, what are the rituals. That's not at all told, or that is not being discussed in this text. Upanishad always have another word in Sanskrit, Shruti. Upanishads or Vedas or Vedanta are also called in Sanskrit Shruti. Shruti means getting something after listening from somebody. Directly listening from somebody. An important topic or subject. In the olden days, where there is no book and other writing materials like pen, pencil, etc., the whole blessed things, all these mantras, all these verses are being delivered to the next generation through oral. And after listening what is told or what is repeated or what is chanted by their teacher, they memorize all these things. Thus, they kept alive this tradition. That is why it's called Shruti. Mere listening, and they keep in their memory and they deliver to the next generation. So, one after another, keeping these all things in memory, and it continued in a perennial manner. That's why it's called Shruti. Any sentences in this Upanishads or in Vedas or Vedanta is called Shruti Vakya or Shruti Vakyam. Means a sentence quoted in Upanishad is called Shruti Vakyam. Any Shruti Vakyam can give a doubt in the human mind, because when we are not familiar with the language of the Upanishads, Shruti Vakyams seems to be contradictory, because almost all Shruti Vakyam, Shruti sentences, the Vedic sentences, are to be understood in the implied manner, Venkyartham, implied manner. Means lot of meanings will be packed in one single word. There will be an implied meaning for every literal meaning, along with the literal meaning of a Vedic word. So, here in this verse, I am going to read and I will explain again. We have seen partially. Here in this verse, it starts like this. I will read the complete verse and will give you the explanation. Manasa eva idam aptavyam neha nanasti kimchana mrityoho saha mrityum gacchati yaiha nana iva pashyati. I will read once more. Manasa eva idam aptavyam naiha nanasti kinchana mrityoho saha mrityum gacchati yaiha nana iva pashyati. So, Shruti sentences, Vedic sentences, are not easily understood by our human mind. The bondages are inside the human mind. The suffering is inside the human mind. Any sorrow is being connected with the mind. So, the remedy should get connected with the mind. I already discussed in an elaborated way in the previous class. Understanding the Shruti sentences, the Vedic sentences, by reasoning, by giving some logics along with that and making a proper way to understanding of our mind to get the proper meaning for our mind. So I already given you certain examples in the last class. When I say Nityam, our empirical experiences are Anityam. We come in a date in this world, we depart from here in another date. That means impermanent in this world, each and everything in this world. But when the Vedas, when the Vedanta, when the Upanishad says, Upanishad say, I am Nityam, Aham Nityaha. I am permanent, eternal. How can a mind understand this meaning Nityam? Logically, we need to make understand the mind what is called eternal. I told in the last class, our body changes each and every moment. Along with the body, because the consciousness is not changing at all, it can mark all the changes of the body, and it is Nityam. A constant entity can only mark the occurring events. By quoting this, a daily experience, mind can easily grasp what is Nityam, which is connected to my life. I am not changing means it is not connected with the body. Because body is also told in our daily language, my body, like my dress, my car, my shoes, my pen, my house, whatever I say in the genital, that sixth case, my house means I am not house. Genitive case always represents the connection with something. So my house means the person and the house are not one. The person is separate from the house. Same way, my body, when I say, I am not the body. I am something separate from the body. That consciousness remains the same. In the three planes, future, present, and past. Without having any change. So, this is called Nityam, understanding properly what is called a Nityam. Even though my body is changing every moment, there is an entity which is conveyed as consciousness, never changes at any point of time. Thus, my mind can easily grasp what is called eternal Nityam. Like this, so much reasoning is involved in each and every understanding of the Vedic sentences. Because this consciousness is not an object to be perceived. Mind can only perceive the external things. My ears can listen only the voice coming from outside. My eyes are supposed to see the objects outside. So mind is familiar with the objects which are perceived by my senses. We say all the objects from the outside, nama rupam, names and forms, nama rupe, nama rupani. All are nothing but names and forms. My mind is very familiar to grasp the names and forms which are reported by our senses. But the mind cannot see, mind cannot think, by which even the mind is working in this body. By which all the thoughts are coming. Mind, of course, is called subtle body. Any time, whenever we say body is equal to inert, jadam, it cannot work itself. It lent the sentient from man another object. Without lending the sentience, it cannot work what we are right now doing. It cannot talk. It cannot see, because body is inert, insentient. By lending satta, by lending the sentient from the consciousness, it seems to be sentient. So mind itself is inert. But mind has lot of misunderstandings, lot of past impressions, lot of doubts, lot of confusions, lot of errors. That is why we have so much sufferings in this world. All these things will come under one single word, ignorance. Ignorance is the cause for the error. Ignorance is the cause for the mistakes. Ignorance is the cause for all kinds of doubts and confusions. About what? I am not ignorant about myself. If someone say like this, yes, we are ignorant about one's own intrinsic nature. We have only past informations about oneself. My parents told me you are a girl or you are a boy. My parents showed me a mirror. and I saw my face. I am a boy, I am a girl. Society also approved. This knowledge is not my intrinsic nature. This is an information got without thinking about oneself. So ignorance is the cause for my sorrows. Ignorant about one's own nature. So mind doesn't have the capacity to think itself, who am I? Without having a proper direction, without having a proper guidance, a person cannot rethink about one's own nature. Somebody should point out a very famous story of Adi Shankara. 10 people there are 10. They tried to cross one river, which is having very strong current. The water flow is so high. After crossing the river, the leader started counting. Anybody missed to cross or everybody reached safely? He counted. He only getting the number 9. Again and again, he is counting all the people around him. He was upset. He was having some problem inside himself. Anytime, whenever he counts, he just get only 9 members. Then somebody far from there shouted towards him, please count yourself. They are 10, already reached safely. Deshamaha tvam asi. You are the 10th man. No need to worry. A very famous story by Lord Shankara. Similarly, we know everything what is there in the outside of in the universe, in the external world. But really speaking, all are anatma, mithya. Whatever I perceive in this world is other than me, what is called in one single word, anatma, mithya. They just seems to be existing. Really, they are not existing at all. So, I want to make you sure, without a proper guidance, without a proper teaching, nobody can realize one's own nature. That is why Guru has an important role in the tradition. Because mind can only think external things. Mind cannot look itself without any advice or instruction of another person. That is why this sentence is important. Manasa eva idam aptavyam. May one try to understand the Shruti sentences, the Vedic sentences, through reasoning, by proper guidance, and make one sure that realization of oneself, the intrinsic nature of the person. Because suffering is centered on mind, grief is centered on mind. So mind need the remedy. A book, for example, we can say Upanishad itself. Mere reading or mere listening to the Upanishad can pass some information to us. If we don't understand properly what is told by the sentences, our grievousness continues. Our sorrow continues even after listening Upanishads. This is the universe thing happen all around the Upanishad teaching. They understand intellectually. What is being told by the person, they understand as an information. When they don't connect with oneself, the sorrow continues. The issues will continue. All other things will stay same like what was there before listening and after also. So the Upanishad statements, the Vedic statements may one put effort to understand the Upanishad sentences properly by reasoning, because it's not an external object to be perceived. So mind need certain logics, certain reasoning to understand the Upanishad's words. Then only it can understand. The literal meaning here is it should be accomplished through the mind, with the mind. This Atma, this consciousness should be accomplished with the mind. But it needs a lot of explanation. I already told you last class and right now also. Mind need reasoning, mind need logics to understand the Upanishad sentence properly. Mind alone is to be played here, because in the previous class I told you any information means it is connected to mind. Any information, any knowledge means it's not connected with the ear or eyes. It's connected to the mind. So manasa eva idam aptavyam. Mind has the problem. So we have to address the problem by giving the proper knowledge to the mind by logic and reasoning. This is the implied meaning. Now, second sentence of this verse. Neha nanasti kinchana. What a beautiful sentence to be understood properly. Na iha. Here, indeed, there is no duality or plurality. Neha nanasti kinchana. A taraka mantra. To be understood properly. I will give you an example and I will give you the exact meaning. Indeed, there is no duality in this world. Na iha, here, what you perceive. Na iha, indeed, there is no other than you. Nothing exists. How can we understand this sentence? One of the milestone sentence, it's a milestone. Actually, this the sentence Neha Nanasti Kinchana. By lightening the truth, all other notions should vanish from our mind. From the childhood onwards, from the first day onwards, I am perceiving the external world with a lot of things. And my mind has, as an instinct now, whatever I see other than me exists in this world. It is my confirmation, because my empirical dealing can only practical by confirming there is a secondary thing. There is a thing other than me. Lot of things are there. Birds are there. Parents are there. My friends are there. My pet dogs are there. My house is here. My car is here. Swimming pool is there. All other things around me, vessels are there, food is there, fruits are there. Accepting them they are real is called duality. Whatever I see in the world other than me, accepting them, they are real, is called duality, Dvaitam in Sanskrit. Dvaita Prapancham. Dualistic world. Whatever I perceive other than me, they are true. My mind has this basic statement because my empirical dealings can only possible based on this statement. Without these, I cannot have an empirical dealing. Any empirical dealing, for that, there should be a presupposed idea that there is duality. In this world, there are other things other than me. There is a bus. There is a bus conductor. There is a bus driver. There are people around me. Confirming all these things as they are real, I will conduct my daily life. And it's a very deep rooted inside my mind. Duality exists in this world. So it's a very big task to uproot this notion that there is no duality in the world, there is only one thing exists. So we need certain examples. As I told you, in order to understand properly any Vedic sentences, we need examples, logic, reasoning, etc., etc. First, we will take our own personal experience. In the dream state, I see a lot of things in the dream. An elephant, a bird, a place, a waterfalls. Of course, my horse. Lot of things I perceive in my dream. All the things didn't come from the external world. They are created by my own consciousness. I enjoyed all the things in my consciousness. At last, I resolved them in my consciousness. Nothing come from outside in the dream. Everything are just originated from the consciousness, sustained by the consciousness, and resolved into the consciousness. One thing remains, all other names and forms are just an apparent reality. Based on this consciousness, all the things seems to be real. Without this consciousness, there will be no name and form at all in the dream. Once I wake up, I understand that whatever I perceived in the dream, they are not real. Whatever duality I perceived in the dream, duality means different names and forms other than me. Whatever duality I perceived in the dream, they don't exist at all. Only my consciousness projected all the things and resolved all the things. Now, come to the waking state. If all the things what I perceive are real, if they are true, why they disappear when I go to the next state? Something which is true, something which is real, should continue at any point of time, at any state. That is called true. That is called reality. That's called something which is eternal. When something is missing, when I jump to another state, after the waking state, when I enter into the deep dream state or through a deep sleep, I don't perceive anything what I have perceived in this waking state. The state itself get vanished. Waking state itself get vanished. That is why it is called a state. Another state originates, comes out, and this state goes. Waking state disappeared and dream state came. Once the deep sleep state comes, dream will go. The state itself is an unreal phenomenon. What to talk about the objects which are inside this state? They are mere superimpositions in the consciousness, like the dream, where the names and forms are being superimposed on the consciousness. Similarly, in the waking state, the consciousness perceives different things in the world. They are mere projections. They exist as long as I perceive them. Suppose if you argue me, even though I am not attending an object, still it exists. Who told? Somebody has made it destructed. Somebody caused some destruction for that object. So there is a possibility of that also. So there is no point of arguing that even though I am not attending that object, that object exists in the world. On that object, a lot of things can happen when I am not attending that object. So what I want to say, the sentence, keep the sentence inside. Neha nanasti kinchana. Shruti always, the Vedic sentences or Vedanta, Upanishad wants to tell the truth. Lord Death says to Nachiketas, there is nothing apart one thing. There is no duality exists in this world. While if you are in the waking state, if you are in the dream state, if you are in the deep sleep state, nothing exists. Neha nanasti kinjana. Here, there is no duality at all. Naiha, there is no other than one thing. No duality exists at any point of time. Another example, for more clarity, when we go to a pot maker's shop, we perceive different pots in different size and different angle and different shape. Different pots, 1, 2, 3. We can count 100, 300 pots are there. because it's a shop where pots are being sold. Different pots are there, but all are existing due to its cause. Without the cause, there is no product in this world. Any product will depend upon its cause. Pot has the cause called clay. Without the clay, no pot can exist in this world. If you take away the clay from the pot, there is no pot at all. They are just mere in the tip of the tongue. Few words, pot. Really speaking, there is no such thing called pot. There is only clay. Unto the clay, we give certain name and form due to its purpose, a pot. Now come to the meaning of this sentence, connecting this example. All the pots are centered on one single thing called clay. Even though I perceive different pots, there is only one thing in the entire pot world, that clay, who is omniscient on the pots. This clay is all pervading in and through everywhere in the pot world. Similarly, all the things what I perceive, they are existing due to my superimposition or due to my projection. If I start an inquiry whether it is existing or not, it will resolve to another thing. I already mentioned you in the 2 classes before. Anything, if you put an inquiry on that, it will resolve into another thing. Like forest resolved into group of trees. There is no such thing called forest, but there a group of trees exist. When you analyze again, is there a tree exist? It will resolve to different parts like branch, some stem, fruit, leaves, etc., etc. Like this, if you analyze, if you put an inquiry on each and everything in the world, while you are seeing they are existing, if you put an inquiry, they resolve to another thing. That's why they are called Mithya by Adi Shankara, non-existent. The world itself is non-existent. Any name and form is not away or apart from the cause. The cause is the base or the locus for the projection. Without the base, there is no projection. We can project anything, but there should be a base. Right in front of us, if there is a thing, it's a mere projection. The base is the real thing. So, Shankara wants to show that in his commentary, even though we perceive all these things, he says that Nanata Pratyupastavikaya Avidyayaha Nivartvat Iha Brahmani Nana Asti Kinchit Anumatram Api. He says like this. Whatever we perceive in the world, we call it duality. It's very deep rooted. I told you right from the beginning of my first day after the birth, I am experiencing the secondary thing in the world because my parents, my family members, my toys, my school days, my books, my friends, etc., all are other than me. So it's not very easy for me to accept they don't exist. Only one reality exists. But understanding properly And daily listening about the truth will make the person, there is no secondary thing in the world. Whenever we confirm that there is a secondary thing, there is an insecurity along with that. Why? Because insecurity is a product of secondary thing. Whether this person will behave in favor of me, whether this person will try to make me to give some pain, whether this person will make me some trouble for me, anything secondary, even to the Lord, if there is a second Lord, second thing called Lord, for example, when this Lord comes to me to give some boons, this God is going to help me whenever I am in trouble. How can he come to me? How he will know me? Lot of questions are there which causes lot of insecurities in one life. Any secondary thing means doidat hi bhayam bhavati. Anything, if we perceive other than me, something is existing, it makes us fear and insecure. So that's why by giving the real knowledge that nothing exists other than one single consciousness, which is me, the listener. Yama Dharma says that because of the ignorance, because not knowing the locus, because not knowing the base of each and every names and forms, I confirm, I perceive lot of things are existing around me. And duality exists. I just conclude myself due to ignorance. That's why avidya nivartatva, for the negation, taking away this ignorance. Brahmani, in this consciousness, which is the biggest, nothing exists. They are just like the bubbles appearing in a water. Bubbles doesn't have independent existence. There is a shape, there is a name, but water is the truth of a bubble. Without water, there is no waves. If you analyze what is the content of the waves, what is the real thing which make the waves to be existing, that is water. Water is the base for the waves. Similarly, the Brahman, the consciousness, is the base for each and every names and forms. If you see this consciousness in each and everything in this world, it can be dog or it can be the president of the nation. It can be a worm or it can be a snake or it can be a guru. Anything, any name and form, if you confirm yourself, assimilating this knowledge that everything seems to be existing due to one thing as their base, that is the consciousness, which is me. This understanding is important because consciousness never comes into birth, never take a birth, never subject to death. Consciousness is eternal. All the names and forms seems to be appearing, and all the names and forms seems to be departing from this world, like in the dream state. Everything comes into being, everything gets disappeared also after a moment. So, na iha nana, very clear. Na iha nana asti kinchana. Nothing is there other than this consciousness. May one make sure about that. That's why Lord Death says that. Naiha nanasti kinchana. Then, suppose a person continues to live in this dualistic world because we have lot of things in our priorities in this dualistic world. A good food, it is a secondary thing other than me. A good shelter, it is a secondary thing other than me. A good dress, it is a secondary thing other than me. Happy relationships with a partner, it is also other than me. Any physical relationship or healthy relationship, it is connected to a secondary thing, correct? Even though the attraction towards an opposite partner is a natural instinct, we say, it is due to the ignorance about oneself. This attraction happens. I am this body. Which body? I am a male body. It's avichara siddham. Without the thinking, one confirms oneself. Nobody is there to guide oneself. Somebody. If somebody is there to guide, we will not confirm that from the childhood itself. I know that I am not this body, even though it seems to be appearing in front of me. It is perceived by everybody that never existed. Like our Swami Dayananda says a classic example, sun rises in the east, sun sets in the west. This is a phenomenon actually. There is no movement of sun from the east towards west. There is no rise or set of the sun. It's a phenomenon due to certain planets rolling, the revolution, etc., etc. After knowing the truth, there is no sunrise or sunset. Still, I enjoy this world and I keep my schedule according to the sunrise and the sunset. I know the truth. Still, I continue my lifestyle according to the sunrise and sunset. Similarly, I come to know that my body never existed at any point of time. The one thing which is existing at any point of time is Brahman, the consciousness. That consciousness is the ultimate goal of each and every individual. But people are centered on their own desires, selfish desires. Shankara says, Bhakshanam, Vastram, Parpidam, Nidra, Maithunam. I will give you English translation. Bhakshanam, they are centered on good food, which is secondary thing. Vastram, they are centered on, I am talking about ourselves itself. Before the rise of knowledge, everybody will be centered on one of these things. A good food, a good dress, a good shelter, sex and sleep and happiness. All the people are making money one of these things, to enjoy one of these things. We can shorten them for the security and happiness. House is for the security. Food, shelter, and sex are giving happiness for me. My priority is body-centered, that's all. I was having all these things as my top priorities. Due to what? Due to thinking that I am this body. And I don't want to be a non-existent in this world. My senses are extroverted. So I have to enjoy this world. So I have to collect certain things to enjoy in this world. Happiness comes from outside. So this thing can give me a lot of happiness. So I should get connected with this thing. All these things are, all these notions are due to non-thinking. If a person is having the having these priorities in their life, if they are self-centered and they believe that external world exists, when there is no knowledge, an ordinary person will have this notion that external world exists. We cannot change them. External world exists for them. They are centered on all these things what I mentioned you earlier. One who confirms that external world exists, that is the third sentence. Mrityoho saha mrityum gacchati. He goes from one death to another birth and come again get to a death. Mrityoha saha mrityum gacchati. After a death, again he will gain a death. He goes from death to death, means in between, after the death, he will take another inferior body and he will go through that experiences of the body, and again he will die or she will die. Again that samsari, the jiva, the person who think himself that I am this body and the world exists in this here, and I have to enjoy this world, and I have to work to get money to enjoy this world, and I continue in this world by reveling, sporting, and getting connected with different people for my body setup, to get my satisfaction of body setup. And I enjoy good food, I enjoy good shelter, because I have a job and I will get a lot of money. So I will enjoy this external world. After getting information, this notion continues. Why? Our thoughts regarding this world, that duality exists, is like a pet animal which I love 100% sincerely, and from my deep heart, I love this pet animal. So I cannot give up this pet. If somebody says to give up, Shruti comes and tell you that duality never existed at any point of time. Please give up. If not, the consequences are horrible. The consequences are so much unimaginable. Still, I continue to pamper my pet thoughts. I should get connected with this person. He's looking smart. She is looking smart. I should get connected with this food. I should enjoy this food. I should go to this place to enjoy. Because I want to pamper my thoughts, the dualistic thoughts. It's not very easy to give up my dualistic thoughts. Even Devendra come from the heaven, he can give you the traditional teaching. Still, these notions will exist in the mind. That is why Lord tell to Nachiketas, this is not an ordinary mistake. It is a very serious mistake which is centered on the human mind. It's not very easy to take away. So this sentence is told 2-3 times. That means this advice is not a casual advice. It is to be taken seriously. One who sees that world is true, he will go from death to death again and again. This is the meaning of this verse. We will go to the next verse in the next class. Om Swasti Prajabhya Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Gobhramanebhya Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितः ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ।